Yeah, right now we're holding at 24, but we'll get a bunch more joining right at 5, between about 5 and 5:03. That's why I do this upfront part so that we can go ahead and have them join while I'm doing this and it's out of the way. And it is 5 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and start. So thank you everyone for attending today's program, How to Be Your Own Boss. This is being presented by AIA Orange County's Emerging Professionals Committee. For attending, you will receive 1.5 AIA learning units. AIA Orange County is the provider, which means that we will record those for you. You can see the course number there below. This is all stuff we're required to say for AIA. So just bear with me as I go through a few slides. Description, want to be your own firm. During this webinar, you will hear from AIAOC members who serve as sole proprietors, providing consulting services on a per-job basis to multiple firms, small firm, 2 to 9 employees, and medium firms, something larger, but my photo's in the way, employees. The learning objectives: attendees will learn about firm management from sole practitioner to medium-sized firm. Attendees will learn about project management and how the size of the firm impacts workflow. Attendees will learn about work-life balance as a firm owner. And attendees will learn about business development strategies to grow the clientele base. Our panelists are Sarah DeCote, Associate AIA. Sarah is a sole practitioner, providing consultant services to multiple firms as well as her own projects. William and Janet Itzen of Itzen. They are a small firm. Janet is on her cell phone. You may see one there as well, so she will chime in when needed. And then Chris Brandon, AIA of Brandon Architects. He is a medium-sized firm. Thank you. Our panelists going on. Important, you need to email rarely if you want credit. So at the conclusion of this webinar, please report your attendance in order to receive AIA learning units and a certificate upon request. You have to let us know if you want that certificate. What Marilee needs, and you can see our emails right there. Most of you probably already know it. Need your name. We need your AIA member number. We need your chapter, because some of you aren't members of Orange County. We don't really have access to find out who your chapter is. It makes it a lot easier. And please let us know if you would like a certificate. And finally, I want to thank today's sponsor, VOCO2, Van Oppen and Company 2, Insurance and Risk Control Services. VOCO2 is a specialty insurance brokerage dedicated to providing insurance and risk control solutions to architects, engineering, environmental service firms, and related construction firms. With contact there. Now, they're really a lot more than just a program sponsor. VOCO2 has been a supporter of Orange County for many years. They are annual sponsors, design award sponsors, programs, and we put on a really amazing symposium with them in the fall. And I highly encourage you to make sure that you attend. You'll see it come out. It's really, really a great program. And the other thing is, and I will watch myself, if you aren't muted and you're not speaking, please mute yourself. It just makes it a lot easier for the panelists. I will monitor it myself. Please use the chat line. We will be using that later on in the program so we can ask the panelists questions. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Nilu.
Thanks, Jeff, and hi, everyone. We welcome you all to this webinar. We're so excited to start that. So this year, I'm honored to be the Director of Emerging Professionals of AIAOC, and our mission is to engage younger architects to nourishing them for the future of the AEC industry by building knowledge of business and concepts, by sharing of stories, and by connecting with others like you. We're very excited for this webinar, and I would love everyone who are in the committee to introduce yourself to everyone in this webinar. And before that, I really want to appreciate Jeff, because whatever I'm doing now and where I am is because of him, and he's been super, super helpful of me to be here at the EP committee this year. Thank you so much. All right, let's start with Trenton.
All right, hello everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Good. Okay. So my name is Trenton. I'm currently with KTGY Architecture and Planning in Irvine. I'm on the multifamily residential team. Graduated from Berkeley in 2015 with a degree in architecture. Go Bears. After graduating, I worked up in the Bay Area at a small residential firm for a couple of years. was an active member up at the AIA East Bay Committee or chapter until 2017 when I got an offer to work down here in sunny Southern California. So packed my bags, moved down here, and I haven't looked back since.
Awesome. Go ahead, Charles.
Hi, everyone. I'm Charles Young. I'll be moderator number 3. And I worked in architecture for 6 years. And right now I am pursuing a graduate degree. That's pretty much it. And I look forward to this talk with everyone.
Great. And Elizabeth.
Hi, hopefully everyone can hear me just fine. My name is Elizabeth and I'm a project manager over at Morrissey Associates. Been in the practice, I want to say a little over 6 years now, and also have ties with the Bay Area, graduated from UC Berkeley, so go Bears, and practice mostly with other architecture firms in San Francisco before moving to Orange County in 2017. So I've been in Orange County since then. I mean, I grew up here, but been working in Orange County since 2017 and been working to get involved more with the AIAOC. So happy to be here with everyone. Thank you.
Thanks. And Joelle.
Sorry, realized I was muted. Hi, I'm Joelle. I work in Kaiser Permanente, medical architect planner, centered in Orange County. I work in National Facilities Service for planning and design team nationwide, and we work on the client side. So I didn't get a chance to gain as much to work on the architecture side. This is my second very professional job to say, and been involved in AIAOC ever since I met Nilu. She was the main reason I joined and stayed involved, and looking forward to gain more and give further experience on the client side.
Great. Thank you very much. So here is our committee. And now I would like to ask our panelists to go ahead and introduce yourselves. We're going to start with Chris, please.
Thank you, Nilu. Chris Brandon, founder and grunt over at Brandon Architects. I started the company in 2009, and I graduated from Cal Poly SLO. Go Mustangs.
Great, thank you. And William?
Hi, my name is William Itzen. I am also here with Jana, my wife, partner, other architect in the family. Jana started things about almost 10 years ago, I would say, and then I joined her 2 years after that to get this whole thing going. I'm also a Cal Poly San Luis Obispo grad, so it's a good company.
Great, thank you. Sarah.
Hi all. So I actually moved out to California back in 2007, went to University of Texas for my architecture degree. So I've been practicing since 2007, but started on my own as a sole prop back in 2016. So doing that for about 5 years now. And yeah, very excited to speak about it today. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you very much. Okay, so now that we know our panelists, I like to start with some questions that we put together. It's been like 5 months that we've been working on this, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. All right, so I think like you partially answered the first question, but I'm just gonna like go over it and ask you guys. So we would love to know, how did you guys start it, and how long ago was it, and if you were in other company, like, you know, what happened? How did you end up like starting your own business? And the last part is, we would like to know, like, what were the sacrifices that you guys had to make to start your own business? So let's go ahead and start it with Chris.
Sure, thanks, Nilu. Yeah, 2009, the recession, basically. I worked for two other local architects in Corona del Mar after graduating in 2002 at Cal Poly. And I like to say that I got an education, a really good education on what not to do. I worked for a couple of guys. My first firm, actually, I ended up going to jail. He was involved in all kinds of bad stuff. And then the second place where I landed, I know that's a story that's going to take more than 60 minutes, but he was a really talented designer, and when times were good, I think we had a lot of business coming in the door, and but I don't think he knew really how to run a business. And about a year into the recession, it became obvious that it was a kind of a sinking ship, and I was newly married, and I was just really trying to make ends meet. So I had one referral from a friend of mine who was a client up in LA, and I kind of realized that I could do, you know, one small thing that was good, or I could continue to bail out an obviously sinking ship. So that was it.
That's awesome. I love that. And how about you, William and Jenna?
Sure. So I worked at a smaller firm right out of college. It was a fantastic experience. And then Jana and I were both at a local, very large firm for a number of years. And we decided after our our son was about a year and a half, and we just decided it was about time that we start the adventure that we had been talking about for so many years. And so Janice started things. She did not start with any clients per se. It was similar to Chris. It was a word of mouth. You just kind of let some people know that are in our circle. And then slowly a few projects started to come along. And then after about 2 years, Jana, in a sense, gave me an ultimatum that I was either going to join her or she was going to hire somebody. So I just decided, well, okay, let's do this. That's how I ended up leaving. It was a really great firm, but it was a cool situation because it was something that I'd shared with the architects that I worked with there. They knew of our future goals, and so it was a pretty supportive environment making that transition.
That's great.
You sacrifice money.
I was gonna ask you that.
I mean, just to be real,
Was it like very tough when you started it, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's just real, right? It's just very, very real when it comes to that starting, not having that steady paycheck. But again, thankfully, it wasn't a scenario. It was a scenario we were planning for, and so versus like if something, it was, the economy, we lost our jobs, and all of a sudden we had to make ends meet. It was something
I think you forgot to mention I was pregnant with our second child.
Oh yeah.
When we finally said, okay, you have to join the firm, or I'm hiring someone. So there's nothing like, having all of your eggs in one basket and making sure you're making enough money for both of you. So
that's a good point.
That's always fun. But being nervous about that makes you work really hard, right?
Good motivator. Yep. Starvation.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, how about you, Sarah?
So I worked for larger firms when I moved out here, kind of survived the recession with a larger design firm, and then chose to leave and pursue different project types. And I had just been at a newer job for about a year when I was laid off. There were kind of rounds of layoffs that happened within the firm. That's the first time it had happened in my career. So I kind of found myself facing, do I jump back into interviews and go right back into another firm? And I decided to take a couple weeks and just decide where I wanted to go with my career. And in those couple of weeks, I grabbed coffee with old colleagues, asked people to lunch, similar to what William said, just kind of let people know the situation I was in. And interestingly enough, another architect that was let go of the same company that I was, he and I had lunch, and he let me know that he was going to go off on his own and offered to give me some design work so that I could kind of try that out and see how I liked working independently. And I absolutely loved it. So from there on, I, again, like what William said, I let people know that that's what I was going to do. And the referrals just started kind of rolling in. I've been really fortunate that that's how I've gotten all of my clients and my work thus far. And it wasn't a tough decision for me. I've always liked the idea that I could take a project from start to finish, be involved from design to construction documents. And I knew that the further I got into my career at larger firms, I was going to have to pick a path, most likely, either design or CDs. And working independently, you can do all of it as much as you want to or as little. So that's one of the many reasons I kind of decided to stay independent. In terms of sacrifices, yeah, I'd say comfort and security definitely goes out the window when you're pulling in your own projects and kind of hoping that you have enough finances to cover the year. But it is a great motivator as well. I've taken on work that terrified me to begin with, but it was necessary. And then in the end, it ends up being another project type I can tackle. It just kind of widens your portfolio. So it's been at times a very scary experience, but positive nonetheless.
So what if you hear like, you have a good offer for a full-time job, would you go back?
Oh, no, I don't think so. If for some reason tomorrow all this work dried up and I had no more referrals, I would consider it. But no, I really love being independent.
Okay, awesome. So now that you're on now, how about, like you mentioned, like most of your clients were from referrals.
Mm-hmm.
How did you end up having your first client?
Yeah, good question. So first two clients, I would say, that kind of gave me the confidence to keep going with this. The first one I mentioned was another architect that he was in the same round of layoffs that I was. And he decided to go off on his own and kind of gave me some design work to get started. And interesting enough, another, more of a friend of mine, was a colleague previously. He had started his own company as well, but more on the graphic design side. And he and his wife kind of took me under their wing, so to speak, when I told them I was going to go independent, and started referring me to anyone they could think of, not even architects, just any job they thought would come in. And funny enough, an IT guy that they connected me with knew a contractor who brought me into his office and right off the bat gave me a few design jobs. So yeah, those two, both previous colleagues that were able to either pass on work or pass on someone that had work, which worked out really well.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, William and Jenna? What's the story of your first client that you start your own business with?
Shoot, I was trying to figure out who the first client was, but honestly, there's so many things that are blurry from that first year. It was entertaining, but one of the memorable ones was through a family member connecting us with actually some public work for a water district. Jana has quite a bit of civic work in her background and her work experience, and so city halls, libraries, fire stations, that kind of stuff. And so that was an easy transition. It was a small job, but that was pretty cool. And then I was looking back at some of our older ones, and then there was, it was like friends of a friend just saying there was a really simple salon project that she did. Let's see what else. I actually also in that first year or so, our previous firm also, let's say, gave us some work as well, which was pretty cool, which for me, that was a huge deal, that the firm that we left was interested in, they obviously needed help, but they were interested in still getting help from us. It wasn't like they were like turning their backs on us because they felt like we were turning our back on them. It was, we still have lots of great relationships there. And so that was pretty cool. And, you know, we are a small industry at the end of the day, and relationships are key.
And I would just add on that note too, William, I think that's a good reminder, is just that because our industry is small, we do end up running into the same people, and just having honesty and integrity in everything we do. Like, that's so important, not just for our interaction with our clients, but with our peers and with our consultants and with colleagues, because you don't know what it could turn into.
That was awesome.
Later.
And then we lost
so
you,
being
Jana.
able to leave well, be honest, and in our communication when we did. All right, sorry, bad reception here. I think I have one bar. You're gonna have to fill in. But just the whole idea of maintaining those relationships and leaving well, because you don't know what it could turn into later. So as everyone is, you know, considering possible transitions or seeing how that works, leaving well is important.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah. Awesome. Love these stories. I want to hear, like, you know, all about it. And I wish we had like 2-3 hours more. All right, Chris, how about you?
I'll try to be quick, but yeah, it was, you know, when I was, before I was officially out on my own, it was a referral through a friend, like a random car club network. The guy was building his family was building a house in Silver Lake area of LA. So that was like the, you know, one little sort of kernel that I could go chase on my own. But after I officially hung my own shingle, what I consider kind of house number one was a referral through my network. I basically, once I knew I was officially doing this, I basically went through, you know, my contact list and called all the contractors, interior designers, like all the, you know, all the folks that I'd worked with over the years, and just told them what I was doing. It wasn't like, hey, you know, trashing anybody or anything, just letting them know like where I was at and what I was doing. And, you know, a few months later, I got my first call, basically. That was a house in Newport Beach.
Awesome. Was it like you said through one of your family members?
It was yeah, the first referral was from a family member, and then the you know, the first house basically was from a contractor that I'd worked with before. So he knew me from the job site, and actually he was a developer too, so he knew a lot of buddies, and I think he kind of realized that I was the one who was doing a lot of stuff at my previous place too. So he was willing to, you know, take a chance on me, basically.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. All right, I'm gonna jump into my last question, and it's about your interaction with your clients. So basically what we like to know is, you already talked about how you got your clients, and it's mostly like through the referrals. And we would like to know, how do you retain your clients, and when do you say no? Like, you know, when it's a good time to say no to a job, or do you even do that? I would like open it up to, like, you know, you guys, please. It's kind of like, I would like to hear what you guys have to say about that.
Maybe, sure. Maybe I'll go first, and then you guys can jump in. But my whole shtick here is when I meet people the first time they're interviewing us, is I like to tell them that we're very client-focused practice. You know, we pride ourselves on putting our clients first and keeping them happy all the way through the process. You know, the process of designing and building a custom home can be fraught with a lot of challenges and stuff. And I think they kind of like to hear that they've got somebody who's going to look out for their interests and be in their corner and kind of make the process as smooth and as easy as possible. And keeping your clients is really about doing that. You know, it's about managing expectations and keeping them happy. Sometimes I say that the designing the house and meeting and exceeding their expectations with that is the easy part. You know, it's getting them through construction, bidding process, the budget. Well, there's a lot of hairy stuff that you got to kind of navigate, but you got to kind of talk the talk and walk the walk. You got to back up everything you're going to say and really keep them happy. That's the key. That's the key to everything, really. It's the key to having a profitable business, the key to getting new clients, and it's the key to retaining your current clients. And we do say no all the time. You know, I think that was one of the best lessons I learned. I didn't learn it soon enough, because even when you're just a one-man band or you're a much smaller operation, you can make mistakes by, you know, saying yes when you should have said no. And we have kind of over the years, we continue to sort of refine our list of values, what we're looking for in a project and our clients. And we try to be as sophisticated as possible with that now, because we're fortunate enough to be in a position where we get hit up all the time with lots of new inquiries. So yeah, we just try to, you know, evaluate that. We have something that we call tabs around here. It's it stands for the attitude, budget, scope, and how do we blank on the location, basically. So if a client doesn't kind of meet all those criteria, then it's something that it's not a good fit for us.
That's interesting. Like saying no is, I always think it's the hardest thing.
It's hard, yeah, because they're basically coming to you with their checkbook in hand, you know, and you gotta realize that at the end of the process, it's not going to be worth it.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Okay, William.
We don't say no enough. I'm glad I got to hear Chris's answer to that. No, I mean, for us, in regards to getting clients and retaining clients, you can't say it enough. The similar things to what Chris said is follow through, and that can be a struggle for sure. And for me, especially when I look at just creating the balance that I want to create in my life, and so you know, for sure, I could work easily 12 hours a day, right? If not more, but I have to decide when to stop. But it's retaining clients with follow through, education of your clients. And one of the things I love about our practice is we try to have a balance in our project types between residential and commercial projects. And it's been pretty cool for us to be able to do multiple projects for the same client in those two spheres of types of projects. But I will say, especially one of the downsides of that, of us having an interest in having a variety of projects, is I think that we've used that to probably not say no when we should have. To a number of projects, because we'll be like, oh, that's a new adventure, that's a new that person is in a sphere of that we're not into, and that could lead to other things. And so we are definitely trying to continue to refine that as well. It's an ongoing process.
That's great.
Yeah, I can completely relate to everything Chris and William said. And I'm going to start with kind of reiterating what Jana said earlier about just being in maintaining relationships with not just within the industry, but within clients. I have learned to just be completely honest about what I can deliver, and then have them be completely honest with me about what their expectations are. And with all of that laid on the table first, it really has led to, I'd say 99% of my relationships with clients have been very positive. one of the things I like about being independent is that I do get to be very hands-on with the clients and meet with them in person multiple times and establish those relationships. So yeah, expectations and honesty are huge in kind of keeping and maintaining clients. Yeah, William, I completely understand what you're saying about when a new project type or a new client comes in and you get excited about expanding your knowledge as well as kind of building that relationship with someone you haven't worked with before. So I definitely struggle with saying no. And there have been months that I work every day, and then there have been months where I finally remind myself that I do this so that I can have a work-life balance, and I pull back. And I'm in those cases, I will just be honest with any new clients and say I'm completely booked at the moment, and I just can't take on new work as much as I want to. You know, we can try this again in a few months if you're willing to wait, and if not, I'll try to refer you to someone that can help. So that's been really helpful. I think coming to terms with what I can realistically expect to produce, because I am on my own, you know, what can I really produce in a week, has helped me to know when to take on a project or when to try to postpone it. It's been good, but it's a constant learning experience. I'm still figuring it out, definitely.
That's great. That's great to hear, like, from all you, like, you know, doing different things. It's just great to hear, like, you know, how you guys deal with it. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. I'm done with my questions, and now I'm gonna have Trenton to take it over. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Nilo. So my questions have to do with building the company and really developing a business. We talked about kind of how you started it. Now it's how you sort of nurture and develop that business. So the first question is about business structure. So a lot of us in this group are studying for our exams and licensure, and one of the topics that comes up in practice management is business structure. So my first question is, what is your business structure? That could be, you know, sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation, and why did you choose it? And has it changed over time? And do you foresee it sort of changing as you grow? So, for example, maybe you started as a sole practitioner, and then you know, maybe you got larger and you thought, oh, maybe I should become a corporation. So Chris, why don't we start with you? So what is your business structure, and how did it change over time?
You bet, Trenton. I did start as a sole prop, you know. I think I did the old school method of getting a DBA and publishing it in a newspaper. It's kind of arcane process in order to get a bank account, you know, and the business name. But yeah, I was sole prop, I think, until probably 2011, so the first 2 years. And then we switched to a subchapter S. And I pretty much just followed the advice of my accountant and my attorney at the time. What I understand is that full C Corps are just really too intense, much larger companies and different things that you have to report on every quarter, every year. And I think the limited liability partnerships are just no longer an option for architects in California. So there wasn't a lot of options, but you know, the subchapter S is where we're at now.
All right, William, how about you?
Yeah, actually a very similar path. Jana started things as a sole proprietor because we just want to keep things simple. When people ask me various aspects of business, my default is whatever is the simplest approach we can take to this, that's what we want to do. And so then when we decided, okay, the sole proprietors, when I joined, came on board with her, it was, what's the next step? And the next simple step was an S corporation as well. Same idea of like, hey, there's some protections behind being a corporation. We'll take that. There's some more complicated things that come along with it, but it's still not terribly complicated to where we didn't want to jump into it. And we actually are 50-50 with Jan and I. So there's pluses and minuses to that as well. We don't technically fall under the women-owned business because of that. So we don't have those aspects, but it hasn't been a big deal to us.
Okay, awesome. And Sarah, how about you?
Yeah, I'll keep it short. Very similar path. Started off as a sole prop. I am still operating as a sole prop, and actually just had a conversation with my accountant about a month ago about transitioning over to an S corp. Again, some protections, some financial benefits to it. One of the most interesting ones, especially being a bit younger myself, that she pointed out is if I do want to apply for a loan, like if I'm going to buy a condo, get a new car, financially, the S corp, I'm more likely to qualify for a loan. It's a cleaner financial path for them to look at versus straight 1099 income. So I thought that was pretty interesting and definitely something I'll be moving into this coming year. So glad to hear that Chris and William did the same thing. That reinforces her kind of recommendation there.
Yeah, that's a very good point. There are benefits to doing it besides just growing or making more money. You know, that's a very true point. Like being able to actually collect a paycheck that's run through a payroll service and have the taxes deducted out of it is a big deal for doing a lot of things, buying a car, getting a house loan, all that stuff.
Okay, great. Some of you have talked about talking to an accountant or attorney for business advice. So at what point did you engage an accountant or attorney for business and financial advice? Was there a certain turning point where you realized you needed some input? And that's open to anybody.
I try to talk to these, no offense to them, but I try to talk to them as little as possible. And that's probably a little to our detriment, but it's also helps my sanity. From an attorney standpoint, it was pretty generic. It was just asking people, hey, need an attorney. This is what we need to do. And then for us, as far as it came to an accountant, that's been an interesting journey. We've been through a number of them, and because for us at least, it started with, hey, we need an accountant, and you get a referral by somebody, and then you kind of do that for a year or two, and it was like, okay, this is a pain. We're not really working. It's like your barber or your hairstylist or something, right? Like you give it a shot for a little while, and then you got to switch. And but that's kind of been our journey on those.
Similar. I have not had to retain an attorney thus far. I've gotten great legal advice from other architects that kind of run their own practices, and that so far for me, that's been enough. In terms of the accountant, that was one of the first moves I made after I knew I was going to be independent, because I knew that I definitely don't know enough about how to file taxes and the finances of working as a 1099 employee. But similar to William, I think I'm onto my third accountant at this point, and have finally found one that is fantastic. She's available at all times. We click really well. Haven't had any issues. I mean, this is a complicated, running your own business and managing it is complicated from a financial standpoint. So having someone that is very, very knowledgeable has been really helpful. And you do kind of have to, feel it out and probably go through a few of them before you find one that works well for your business.
Yeah, I would suggest to anybody's thinking about kind of going out and starting on their own that don't be afraid to reach out to some of these A&E like focused providers right off the bat too, because I took a similar path and I kind of stuck with my little old lady CPA. She carried around a briefcase, she kind of worked out for the first few years, but like I probably didn't make a change soon enough. Like once I actually found a firm that was focused on A&E stuff, I learned a lot and saved a lot of money. And you don't have to be like a big account or big fish. Same thing goes for attorneys too. Like these guys, you gotta find the people who are focused on what your business is really about. Even if you end up maybe paying a little bit more for that advice, it's better to get that advice sooner rather than later.
Cool, great. Cool, thanks guys. So next question, transitioning here is, how do you choose your firm's priorities? So there are some firms out there who are very growth oriented, and they look to research and expanding into different markets, different product types, maybe different locations. So that's one. You could be growth oriented, or maybe you're focused on your portfolio. You're selective in work. Maybe you're focused on one product type and you're happy with it, and you just want to further develop your portfolio. So how do you guys choose your firm's priorities? And let's see, William, let's start with you.
I was hoping you'd choose Chris first. How do we choose our priorities? I don't know if we can fit. Honestly, I don't know if we fit into those categories, to be honest. When we're trying to select our work, we base it off of trying to find great people to work with. It's, you know, if you look at our website is primarily our portfolio, and you would say, gosh, you've been in business for 10 years, like, where's all the projects? They're not all like these, most of them actually to this point. I think that the percentage is getting better and better every year, but they're not all like glamorous portfolio type of projects, and that doesn't stop us from going after them. And then, but so you could say maybe we're a little more growth oriented than we are portfolio driven because of that. But when I think growth, I think like, oh, at this point we should be 20 people then. But that's not the case. We're growing probably in a different way than just numbers of staff. Off to you, Chris.
Yeah, good job, William. This is always a tricky one because I feel like this is another thing where you sort of figure it out as you go. But I can tell you that in the early days, you know, the direction was pretty much just me. It's like, what am I interested in? Like, what am I passionate about? Like, and what was I already kind of good at, and what do I want to continue to learn and grow and be better at? And that was really the custom homes. You know, I remember, you know, maybe somewhere around like year 4 or 5 or 6, realizing that even our little market here in Newport Beach was able to give me, you know, more work than I can handle just doing that. So is that something that I wanted to continue to do, or did we want to start to take on other challenges, look at other product types? And it really became a conversation with more people. Like I've been fortunate enough to keep a lot of my original hires, and you know, we're a team now. And so as we think about what we want to do, and it's something that's a conversation we continue to have. You know, sometimes it's every year, sometimes it's every other year. Like this last year with COVID, it was like probably every 3 months. You know, it's like, what are we doing? Like, where are we going? Like, what's happening in the world? And what do we want to focus on? So it is important. You can't have like a rudderless ship. You know, you need to know like what kind of work you want to be doing, and you really want to point your ship that way. You want to market for that, right? Like that was one of the first most powerful tools I learned about marketing. Is like, you got to market for the work you want to do. So if you want to do really nice, sexy custom homes, like try to get your first one and then market the heck out of that. You know, like if you want to do boutique hotels or commercial work, like that's what you're passionate about, then like put that stuff up front and center. But yeah, I can say that, you know, our growth now is really more driven from the team than it is me. So I'm doing a lot of listening and planning and talking to those guys and gals about what we want to do. And the last couple of years has been, yeah, we love the custom homes and we want to continue to excel at that, and we want to break into new markets, but we're also willing to take on other challenges and product types as long as the level of design is high. So we've done like a boutique hotel, some mixed use projects, a little bit of multifamily stuff, but you know, getting into these other sort of second home markets has been a lot of fun, and we've been learning a lot. So part of that is like, we all want to be challenged. I think that's would have been my direction no matter what, but a lot of my young people too, they want to continue to grow and take on new challenges. So it's a good question.
Yeah, I'll follow that up and say the same thing. And I'll add one aspect, which is occasionally it's survival oriented. Like what what type of work do I need to take on to make sure I have enough income for the year. But luckily that hasn't happened but once or twice. For the most part, it's a for me a 50-50 balance of I know how to do this work and I know I can do it well, and so I will take on that project type. And then I don't know this project type, but I think I can expand into that, and I really want to be challenged and try something new. And I guess in that sense it is expanding portfolio, but for me it's really more about learning a new type of architecture or working with a new client that I think would be a great fit for me. So I completely understand what William's saying about choosing your clients based on the people you're working with as well. It just makes the working experience that's so much easier and more manageable.
Great, thank you all. So then on the list here, next question is, when did you feel it was the right time to hire some help? So when you start out, you might have one or two projects and can manage the workload by yourself, but at some point, maybe your business grows to the point where it makes sense to bring in some outside help. So when do you feel is the right time to hire some help? And when you first started out, did you hire, some outside draftsmen, junior staff, or did you, do all the labor yourself? Maybe it was more profitable to do it by yourself, but we all have to get sleep too. So at what point did you feel it was right to hire people? And so, Chris, let's start with you.
Sure, I was going to jump on that one because I do want to make that point to everybody who's listening. Is that I think the most pivotal part of my journey here has been hiring my first employee. It was the sort of the scariest decision, but the most important one and the best one I ever made. I think it was 2011. He's still with me, which is awesome. And,
That's awesome.
And it really taught me that a lot of things about the business. It was a scary time. It was still deep in the recession, and you are kind of always looking over your shoulder and just happy to be able to provide for yourself. But when you think about taking on somebody else and that responsibility, it's it's kind of a game changer. I actually started by having an intern for the summer prior. And so I kind of dipped my toe, I guess, into the employment side of things, and it really worked out. And then he went back to school, and I decided, my wife and I sat down and talked about it. She's always been a partner in the business here too, although she doesn't do the architecture side. And we said, let's just do it. Let's put an ad out there and see what happens. And even that process was a big eye opener for me too, because here we were, this tiny little shop. And I was getting, for a, very like out of school kind of ground level position, I was getting resumes from, architects working for 15, 30 years that had been laid off. And like, it was such a hard time for the profession. It was humbling and very eye opening at the same time to go through that process. But yeah, really from there, I think I hired my first 4 employees in a matter of less than a year. About 9.
Dang.
Yeah.
Nice.
I know. And we were fortunate to get a lot of work to kind of support it, but it's like it was such a pivotal point.
That's awesome. We've had an interesting approach, but the thing that I love about this question is how do you feel was the right time? That is something that we're continuing to figure out within ourselves. And when you're trained as an architect and you don't have an MBA and you maybe don't have formalized training in business, where are you getting your education on that? And we have a lot of great mentors that help us along the way, but in the end, and it's something that maybe I'm kicking myself at the moment with, is I'm trying to follow my gut more than maybe, let's say, indicators that maybe are, oh, we have enough capital, or oh, we have enough projects. And it's not like I'm going to go hire 10 people tomorrow, but as an example, in the middle of last year, I just really felt strongly that we needed to hire a licensed architect to be on our team. We needed that higher level team member, and I convinced myself out of that, and for lots of different factors, and now I'm kicking myself. I wish we would have started and pursuing that person, because I wish they were on our team right now. So for us, I think that's been a really challenging aspect of the business. Is we love interns. We try to have at least one, hopefully 2 interns at a time. We love just that mentorship. It takes a darn lot of time, but at the same time, it's pretty cool to have that level of person in the firm, exposing us to new ideas. So that's just a random tidbit from our side of things, just being totally open and honest on some of what I would perceive as maybe a recent fail on my part, in trying to hire.
Yeah, I'll just quickly add on to that. I agree. I'm not sure that I know when the best time to hire help is. Usually, kind of to what William's saying, I'm usually underwater by the time I go, oh, probably would have been a good idea to ask for help on this or look for someone to help. One of the things I do outsource, and I found it pretty helpful, especially in the last few years, is surveys and as-built drawings. I realized it's not something that I can be incredibly efficient at, especially by myself. So I've asked around, found somebody who's highly talented at it. It's what he does for a living, and have established a great relationship with him. So he can knock out a survey and have me base drawings in a matter of days, which is something that when I'm juggling a lot of projects would have taken me a week to get out there, get to the site, measure, get everything drawn up. So that's been a huge help. So that's one of the first people that I've kind of hired on to work with me. And then what I've found recently is I do know a few other sole prop individual owners that I've worked with in the past at firms, and we've kind of connected and have a group email now. So if one of us is facing kind of an overwhelming project load, or we get approached by a client, we really want to take the project, but we don't have time, we will email each other and see if it's something that someone else can take on or we can work jointly on, so that we don't have to say no necessarily or turn the project down. And that's been incredibly helpful. Just having even that background support and knowing that there are people that could maybe jump in and help you has been great. So I haven't actually hired an employee yet, but hearing Chris say that was kind of one of his best moves, it makes me want to go that direction. Yeah, definitely.
Cool, thanks guys. So my last question here is about your company as a whole. So what is your company culture like? And it's sort of an intentionally broad question because culture could be defined in a number of ways. It could be either shared goals and ideals, attitudes, which define your brand, so to speak, or it could be how the staff and management sort of interact with each other. So I guess, how would you define your company culture, and how did you maintain this culture during the pandemic? And feel free to jump in, whoever wants to start.
Maybe I'll go ahead and jump in on that one, guys. I sum it up as family, really. I think that's the easiest way to sort of describe what works best for us is in terms of a company culture. It's sort of where we started and sort of where we've tried to stay, even though we're at 20 right now. And it's everything that you think about with family. It's trying to be close and understanding, listening, being good listeners. The other side of that is really believing in the sales pitch, right? Like whatever we're telling the clients, whatever we're putting out there into the world, like we are, like I said, a service-oriented firm. We think that we're great designers. Like, we think that we can do things on schedule. Like these are part of kind of the core values of the firm as well. You sort of have to be able to back that up, and everyone understanding that. It's easy to sort of if you have shared values, it's easy to have a shared vision. for the firm, you know. But just actually recently, I am going through like an executive training course, which has been really fun. So I'm learning, because I never had that education in school about how to run a company, but I'm getting a really great education in how to set some of these things up and how to talk to my team members about it, and how to have, you know, productive, thoughtful sort of dialogue, you know, with myself and also with my management team and stuff about a lot of this. And culture is, it's extremely important. You know, I think it's one of the reasons why we've been so successful, because it's my success is all led through other people. You know, that's why I do look back at my first employee as a pivotal point, because as a leader of a firm, you learn to, you know, drive success through other people. And I've always enjoyed that part of it, the mentoring, you know, the teaching, and seeing others succeed.
Yeah, you know, over the course of the earlier years that we started our firm, I would hear different aspects of, oh, you shouldn't be like a family. Oh, you should be like a family. And in the end, it just makes sense to us to grab and hold on to those family aspects that we value and instill them in our firm. From everything, just really knowing our team. And when it came to this last year with COVID, it was, we absolutely love and cherish working in the studio together, and having the quick interactions. But we had to be real with ourselves. There's, you know, we have one team member, she has 3 amazing kids, and her reality was different, even though she likes being here as well. She had a new reality, and it was our culture needed to reflect that we value your entire life, all aspects of it. And it was understanding and trying to figure out, how do we make that work? And it's funny because you can read all sorts of different things of how businesses are navigating things at the moment. But her, for instance, as soon as her kids got back into school, she was like right back in the studio as much as she could, because she just loves that aspect of how we operate and how we do things. And so it went from like 1 day a week, maybe, to now it's a few days a week. So that aspect has been really cool. And that's something that's really important to us is, you know, our kids come into the studio. Chris, I don't know about yours, but everyone knows our kids. We know other people's kids. It's there's just that family atmosphere. It's kind of a holistic approach.
Yeah, thanks. You know, the pandemic was tricky, but I think just, you know, like you would do with a family, you kind of listen to them and you try to decide what's best for everybody. And we just try to be flexible. For some of us, that meant staying here, you know, and just being careful and masks and stuff. For others, it meant, you know, working from home or some kind of hybrid. But yeah, just trying to be flexible.
I'll just add to this from kind of this sole practitioner standpoint. So it is just me, and I will occasionally work in clients' offices, again, pre-pandemic, which is great from an interaction standpoint. But I would say one of the things I practice and I remind myself daily is just appreciation. I know I'm not saying I'm lucky to be able to do what I do. It takes a lot of hard work, and I know what it took to get here. But I really appreciate that I get to operate this way, that I get to work independently, that I get to work with the clients I get to work with, and I try to convey that to them when I work with them, is that appreciation for them, the relationship, the jobs, and that actually extends straight into the pandemic question as well, because I was incredibly thankful and grateful that I had work all through the pandemic and stayed busy and had clients that still reached out. So yeah, I'd say appreciation's a huge one for me.
Cool, thanks guys. So Nilo, I know Charles has a set of questions to ask. I know we're just about out of time, so not sure if you want to proceed with his questions or let me know what you want to do.
I think we still have another half an hour to go, so.
Oh, do we? Oh, perfect. Then, okay, then with that, Charles, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, of course. I'm really pleasantly surprised. I thought we were down to like 5 minutes and I was about to say like, let's do a rapid fire round. Yeah, so let's bring up the pace a little bit. So I think everybody in this talk has gotten a chance to understand the 3 different kind of businesses and how they started. What I want to do with these 3 questions, 4th one by Jeff, is to really go into the deep technical part. So first rapid question is, if you were to start a project today, what would be your software tool sets workflow that you would introduce? Kind of take us through SD, DD, and CD if you don't mind. We can start with Sarah.
Yeah, it completely depends on the project type. I would say the majority of my projects still start off in SketchUp and design phase. It's a lot of flexibility for design there. And then we jump into CAD, kind of late SD, early DD phase. CAD takes us all the way through construction documents. I still do work in Revit. It's very client-based. If they ask for it, I will do it. If not, I'd say, yeah, SketchUp and CAD are the primary tools that I'm using. And then, in terms of design, Creative Suite, as always, and QuickBooks throughout the entire process. Create invoice at the end, maintain accounts. So that's another big program that I use constantly.
That's super helpful. Thank you. How about you, Will?
So we do a lot of sketching early on. I am absolutely in love with my iPad and Apple Pencil. So we do a lot of that, and we actually get into Revit very early. I've been a pretty big advocate for a while now with Revit, and we've developed some workflows that we feel like are pretty successful as far as allowing us to be really simple in the beginning, so that we're not worried about the crazy detail that you can get to in Revit. We're now using Twinmotion. We switched about a year ago to do a lot of our visualizations. Absolutely love it. And so it's a lot of back and forth between Revit and Twinmotion daily on our projects. And we use Revit even all the way through construction. We make all of our changes during construction that are happening in our models so that we're always up to date. It's really important for us to trust that. So we do that. When we keep things simple, when I said it before, one of the things that we do, we're an all Mac office. And so I appreciate the simplicity of that platform. And so that's how we run. And then we have a virtualized Windows software so that we run Revit, of course. But so like when it comes to everything else, I mean, we use all of like we don't use Microsoft Word, we use Apple Pages and Numbers and Keynote because I love the simplicity of them. I love how they work and operate. So it's a lot of that as well.
Thank you.
And I don't even really use we don't use QuickBooks either. Like we use Xero because I was just like, I was in this weird mindset when we started out. I was like, I need something different and I need to be simple. Everyone uses QuickBooks. So, but that has its own challenges that I made that decision early on.
Cool. Thank you, Will. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, this is a tough one for me to answer right now because I've been going through a transition, and actually just this week we're trying to make a decision as to what we do company wide going forward. But we've basically been Revit based since 2009, and over the years tweaked that workflow. I'm kind of old school in the way that I like to start by sketching, and I try to train my team and my designers to do a lot of the same to keep things loose. But then I don't like to involve other programs. I just try to go right into Revit. So when you start thinking about it in 3D, you try to find to get those tools in there, because that's what we're going to use to get all the way through the CDs. So we've never been like, hey, we're going to do the SketchUp thing. Over the years, we've tried different tools to plug into Revit. We used something called Fusor in the early days, Lumion for a little while, Twinmotion we played around with. We're actually might be coming back to that. I'll come back to that. But one of my things here is that I'm always trying to find the latest and greatest technology. I think it's another one of the reasons why we built some early momentum and quick growth in our company, is that we were sort of disruptors in our field, and even doing things in BIM, right? Being able to do things in Revit, custom homes in Revit. A lot of our clients had never seen stuff drawn in 3D. A lot of the contractors we worked with had never built off of a set that was produced in Revit. So it was a good marketing tool for us too, but also a great design tool. So now what we do, a year ago, we switched over from Revit to ArchiCAD. And there's not enough time to get into why we did that. But I'll just say that, after dealing with Revit for like more than a decade, we really felt like we pushed it to its limit with our creative process. And I don't know that it's the software that's best designed to suit the scale of architecture that we're doing. That's probably like the simplest way to put it. We basically take these BIM models, whether it's ArchiCAD or Revit, and we export them into Max. And I have a rendering team. I have 2 dedicated 3D artists, and they're the ones who generate our visualizations. So the renderings and the VR kind of come from Max. We use Corona as the rendering engine for that, for people who are interested in the kind of technical back end of things. We just found that Lumion, Enscape, like a lot of these Twinmotion, they weren't quite getting to the hyper realistic, level that we wanted to be at. Max still seems to be like predominantly the way to do that, and is the most fluid. But we've over the years we found ways to integrate that workflow so that we're not sort of stepping on each other's toes or throwing away a lot of work. So our rendering team has gotten to the point where they will continue to reload these models that we're exporting, whether it's from Revit or ArchiCAD. Comes in as a FBX, I think it is, or something like that. But we can kind of keep doing that. So the technology is very much a part of our design process as well. We look at our test renders and use that as a design tool in the studio to make changes to the design. So it's not like we get all of our modeling done and we hand it off to these guys and they come back to us in 2 weeks with a finished product. It's a very much, creative, collaborative process, kind of back and forth. So, but it's been tough. I mean, we literally, every quarter we probably look at that process and try and figure out what's working, what's going wrong. Sometimes our rendering guys get really jammed up, and I see them saving files at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and that stuff kills me. So it's not easy. But
thank you for
I want to just add one thing there really quick. Sorry, Charles. Maybe this is a default mute point, but I still think it's kind of a fun one to bring to light if you haven't thought about it already. Is I think we're even for the last decade at least, I feel like we've been in a really good position as a small firm to be able to leverage technology just like a larger firm. And so, when you hear Chris talk about all the things that they're doing, Chris is 20 people, and that's a substantial amount of people, but still those are really complicated and really intense softwares and processes, but he's still doing it. He's still a small firm. Sorry, Chris, I don't think that you take offense to that. You're a small firm and you're killing it.
Small forever.
Yeah. So,
no offense taken.
But I think sometimes it's easy to think like, oh, big firm, like they can do it because they're a big firm. And that's been a mindset that we've never wanted to have since day one that we started. We wanted to always be like, hey, we can do, yes, there may be some manpower thing but anything outside of manpower, we want to be able to compete and not let that hold us up.
Thank you. Thank you all for this really detailed answer. It's really interesting how, we're going back to sketching and then jumping straight into Revit and then maybe investing more into the realism part of things. I just got noticed by Jeff that I only get one more question. So I'm gonna compact this a little bit, and it's free for all three of you. So the question is, if in thinking about growing your firm, the question is always like, do I want to jump into a different product type that I might want to tackle, as Sarah was mentioning earlier? Or maybe instead of jumping to a different product type, it's more like joining in design competitions or engaging in the community to design something pro bono. What is it that you would do, and what are 3 steps that you would take? Something sort of as a takeaway for the audience. And let's start with Chris this time. We could go backwards.
Sure. Yeah, well, like I said earlier, I think it's an ongoing conversation. I think it's a good thing to have that vision and to have a targeted area of growth. And I think it's appropriate to be able to move that and revisit it and talk about it and really have critical dialogue about it. For us, opportunities that are going to teach us things, give us opportunities to grow. We don't really look at things outside of our wheelhouse, I'll say, so projects that we've done that are not sort of custom homes or things that are easy for us to do. We don't really look at it as money generators. We look at it as like, could this be a portfolio? Could this be something that we can learn from? Could it make us better at our bread and butter, at our daily stuff? Is it something that we can use? Is there a tangible besides just the contract and the monetary value? And I think that served us really well over the years. Like I mentioned that boutique hotel we did. We sort of shut the whole office down for about 30 days and worked on that design proposal, almost kind of nonstop. And it was a really fun thing, just as a team building kind of exercise. Everybody sort of got to touch a certain part of it, and it became something that we all kind of owned as a company and we're very proud of. And I'm sure I lost money on it. I never bothered to look. But we won some national design awards for it and got some really great recognition in that space for being like disruptors again, right? Like guys who have never done a hotel before, to come in and do something that was really well received. So I think it's good to take risks and to do that kind of stuff. If they're growing, if they're learning opportunities, if there's things you can kind of take away from it besides the money.
Cool. So the step 1 is to talk to your members and see if they want to take the risk, and 2 would be to shut down the office for 30 days. Gotcha. How about you, Will?
I inadvertently distracted myself for a week on a proposal that I was trying to dive into a new area project type, and that just ruined me. We didn't get it. But for me, it goes back to hiring. And that's kind of where Jana and I currently are at, is for us to kind of expand in some of the areas that we want. We've been fortunate enough to have quite a few number of opportunities come our way, and especially recently. And so that kind of plays back into, I wish I would have just trusted my gut this last year and hired quicker so that we could have that team. Because we have opportunity and we're wanting to do that, but we have to recognize our capacity. And there's been a few situations over the years that we've not necessarily maybe identified our that we were already at capacity, and so we actually we weren't able to take the momentum that we were creating maybe in that different market and really run with it because our capacity was full. And so that's been a process for us in trying to kind of get a hold of that.
Great, thank you. So for this, step one is to take a chance, see you might succeed and you might fail. But number two is hire and seek for outside help.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Will.
Be ready to succeed so that you can run with that.
Exactly. How about you, Sarah?
I'm glad you asked this question. It's something that came up recently that I'm definitely hoping I can pursue as I move forward in my career. So aside from, like I said, looking for project types that challenge me, that can kind of grow my knowledge base, I would really love to, in the future, be able to take on and attack some pro bono work. So what brought this up is my parents live in a really cool little neighborhood in Austin. I was visiting them recently, and there's this great grocery store that the whole community accesses. It's just kind of buried in this residential area. Makes it so that people don't have to drive. They can walk over to the store, which I love, kind of a pedestrian oriented community, but it's falling apart. It's been there since the 70s. The guys owned it since the 70s, and you walk on the floors and they're creaking and the walls are not quite vertical anymore. And I thought, how cool would this be if I could step in pro bono and design and maybe pull in some contractors that could help at least kind of bring it up to code and bring it back to life, and that it's something this whole community uses. So, and now every time I visit, a new city or walk around and I find these little kind of hidden gem projects that I think would just be so cool to sink some love into. So it's something I'm going to try to, miraculously create more time to go after in the coming years, just because that's kind of a soul feeding thing for me. It's a passion project that, kind of keeps me happy.
That's great. So I think like number one is, travel, right? And get exposed, get inspired. And then number two, like, feed that passion.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I have to end my section and hand it off to Jeff now.
Okay, this is going to be really quick. There's a question I have out there I was going to ask each of the panelists, but there are some really awesome questions in the chat, and I want you to be able to get to those instead. So I'm going to revise what was, and I think we all know that AIA has been a benefit to us, or we wouldn't be here today, that we recognize the value. So I'm just going to ask each of the panelists to give me a thumbs up if the AIA has benefited you in some way in building your businesses. All right. Okay, thank you. So what I want to do now, because there are some great questions, I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth to open the chat line. And you're going to find some might stump you a little bit. There's some excellent ones in there. So have some fun.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, there are some great questions in the chat. So thank you for giving me that time to share them with everyone. So this first one is from Gretchen Johnson. And they ask, there's reasons why some of us chose architecture school and definitely not business school. How did you transition to running your business while still doing design? So I think we've touched on this. Maybe the question should ask, I think, how do you transition from like the business part to then design? And we can ask Sarah on this first.
Great. Honestly, it's a constant learning curve. Yeah, I definitely have no business training here. I've had some fantastic mentors that have been willing to jump in and offer advice. And I know personality type wise, I like wearing all my different hats. I like that I can be a designer for a few hours in the morning, transition into accounting mode in the afternoon and get invoicing done. And then in the evenings, think about marketing and business and what am I doing with this business? So it kind of goes back to that answer that I gave about constantly being challenged and looking for ways to kind of grow and expand. So that's how I've managed it and how I kind of approach it. It's a learning experience for me all the time.
Off to Chris.
Yeah, it is. It's a tough balance, you know. I think as a business owner, as you get employees and things get more complicated, you just have to wear more and more hats, you know, and you get pulled in so many different directions. I think it's good to sort of seek help in those areas and pass off the things that you don't want to do or you know you're not good at, and just know that it's going to take some resources to find somebody who wants to do that or is good at doing that. But you have to understand that it's going to help you in the long run, you know. And I still look at my primary role here as you know, creative director more than president or owner or CEO or anything like that. Like the design and you know, making sure that these projects get done to a level of care and design that I'm happy with at the end of the day is what's most important. You know, so being able to free up my time to be able to do that, you know, to be able to sit down and draw or meet with the team and have these crits is really critical. So it's you can, as you get busier and the business starts throwing different stuff at you, it's easy to sort of lose focus and kind of play whack-a-mole every day. So that would be my advice there, is that you got into architecture because you love it, you're passionate about it, right? And you got to stay focused on that. At the end of the day, that's what's going to make you successful. Running a business, you can kind of learn, or you can get help on that. So don't be a hero, don't try and tackle it all, but don't lose focus on why you got into it, why you love it.
And then to Itzen.
Can you hear me okay? I had to go mobile.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I missed part of the question. I apologize.
No problem. I can repeat it if.
Yeah, really quick, and I promise I'll be succinct.
All right. So there's a reason why some of us chose architecture school and definitely not business school. How do you transition from running your business, wearing the accountant hat, for example, and then transitioning over to design?
Yeah, self-discovery, trying to figure out what works best. I tend to work on, or I if I can control my day, which I should be able to more and more, but I try to work on some of the more, let's say, quote, business stuff in the afternoons, because I just find myself being able to transition into that thinking. And I want to, you know, unless I need to help or talk about something with someone else, I try not to have a discussion about a proposal or contracts or some aspect of our books in, let's say, before lunch. I mean, that would be my preference. Now, I love, Chris, you said whack-a-mole. You know, it's that I definitely feel like that's my life right now, for the most part. But I just kind of take it as a season that I have to be aware of and try to get back on track with.
Great, thank you all for your answers. I think I have time for maybe one more question. So I'll ask this one. It ties back to just the business, you know, of architecture. So what lessons learned did you take away from developing your pricing strategies so that you stay competitive but not undervalued in your work?
That's a good one.
Take it away, Chris.
Take it away, Chris.
You see it all for the end, right? I'll jump on that grenade, I guess, guys. I don't know. That's honestly one of the hardest parts about being in business, you know. And I'll actually be upfront with potential new clients when I meet them for the first time. So it's we're trying to sell you a project or a product that doesn't even exist yet. You know, we still have to kind of dream it up, and we don't know what it's going to look like for a long time. But I guess I'd say I got pretty good advice early on. It actually came from one of my old professors who I met up with back at Cal Poly after being in business for a couple of years on my own. And he said very bluntly, charge a lot. Like be good or be bad, but charge a lot. Like you know, And that kind of sunk in, like we are valued, don't undervalue what we do, don't undervalue what you do, but also what we, you know, as architects do in the industry. And it's pivotal what we create a lot of wealth for people, you know, no matter what projects we're doing. You have to be cognizant of that, you know, and don't undervalue yourself. So there's lots of different strategies that you can employ throughout the years, like unit cost, price, you know, percentage of construction. I think that's all that stuff's very like industry specific. And when you're probably ready to go out on your own, you've already been exposed to some of that. You probably already kind of intrinsically know, you know, kind of where you need to be in there. But my advice would be, you know, be kind of strong about it. Like getting into business for yourself is risky. So that, like, don't do it if you're risk adverse. Like and it's hard, especially when it's just yourself, or you even have a couple employees, but you're kind of looking at things like, you know, month to month or quarter to quarter. It's hard to say no, or to like have somebody walk away because the price is too high. But you just have to kind of trust that your network will provide, and that there's always going to be another phone call. You know, it's one of the most exciting things about my business. I've had tons of clients walk away. I've lost some really big ones that I've lost sleep over and just been heartsick over, you know, but it's always a phone call the next day, or a week from now, you know, or a month from now, and you're just like, huh, it's pretty cool. You just have to be kind of trusting in that.
Thank you for sharing. Sarah, do you want to share your lessons learned? Or let's go with Sarah, and then we'll go with William.
Sure. Yeah, I can pretty much mirror exactly what Chris said. I was really fortunate to have two mentors early on when I started off that told me exactly that. Don't undervalue yourself going in. And it's a hard lesson to learn, and I've definitely fumbled a few times. But you know, you do have to believe in what you're bringing to the client, and put the correct value on it. And then, just like Chris said, you know, you will lose projects occasionally. There is always another phone call or an email that comes in, and you start to gain that confidence, and you find your value in the market based on the project type you're doing, the kind of clients you're approaching. But there's still a learning curve to it. I've been doing this for about 5 years now, and I will still occasionally kind of miss a mark and aim too high or too low. And I'm either, you know, losing money on the project or somebody walks away. But it's, you know, for the most part, I'd say most of the time I've found a really good either hourly rate or a fixed fee per project that works well. It just comes with experience. But yeah, what Chris said is huge. Do not undervalue yourself going into this and when you bid projects.
Thank you. Let's hear from
Absolutely. Gosh, it's tough. I think every entrepreneurial architect is going to say, like, after a few years, there's so many projects that we've lost because of the simple fact of, hey, we were too expensive. And it bums me out a lot, because for those of us that have the experience, we know that our fee is such a small aspect of a project, and the decision making that we're entrusted with, and the design choices that the client would be signing on to having us work through. It's just like, wow, like it's amazing. And it bums me out that also the person that or the firm that we've lost to devalued themselves to the extent that they did. And so it's always such an interesting conundrum. And then the other thing I would say is we've been fortunate enough we surround ourselves. We have a couple individuals in our life, and they're constantly telling us that we're not charging enough. They don't know what we're charging, but they just keep saying, I know you're not charging enough for what you do. And they're like a support team, right? They're just another encouragement for who we are. They know the details of our business and what we're doing. And they're like, you need to charge more, you know, what you're doing. They're, you know, it's kind of the cheering section. But they're not blindly cheering. It's because they understand what we're doing, and they're constantly like, hey, we had a recent project proposal, and we were just talking about scope and all the things we were doing. And this one mentor of ours was just like, you better charge. What is your gut saying? And you better charge more, because what you guys are going to do for that project is going to be huge. The value that you're going to bring to it is going to be awesome. And it's really nice to have people like that in your world.
Yeah, I really like that question. So thank you all for answering that and sharing. I'll give it over to Nilu or Jeff now so that we can close.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for reading the questions. And I wanted to thank you all, especially our panelists, for your time and for being here today for this great discussion. We learned so much, and we would all appreciate you. Thank you so much. And I want to appreciate all of you who joined this meeting. This is our first, EP webinar of the year, and we're gonna have more. Our next one is gonna be on July, and we're gonna discuss like more and send out more information to you guys soon. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much, and have a great night. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Nilo.
Thank you.
Good
Thanks
job.
for having us.